Welcome to Upfront. I'm your host, Kristina Kruchkowski. On this episode, we've got Castlegar Mayor Lawrence Chernoff joining us in studio to talk about water meters, cannabis dispensaries, and more. Born and raised in the Castlegar area, Lawrence was employed as a paramedic for 38 years with the BC Ambulance Service before retiring in 2006. Lawrence was first elected to Castlegar City Council in 1987 and is now serving his fourth term as mayor. He has always been very active in the community and has been the driving force behind many community initiatives. Thanks for joining us today, Mayor Chernoff. First off, let's dive right in and talk about water meters, a big issue right now in the city of Castlegar. Now, most homes and businesses here do have the water meters now installed, but let's go back to when the decision to install water meters first came about. Why did the city of Castlegar decide to go to water meters?
It's really about the granting process. And when you look at the process, there's a need, and we talk about averages. And when the feds were looking at this thing and we're looking at the water meters, it's what do you use on a daily basis? And if you didn't meet the criteria, then you didn't have no money coming to you, and that was the big part of this thing, and it's really about conservation and how do you get that, and what do you need to do in any given way to conserve water, right? So in our calculations, we kind of look at this thing, would water meters help? And it kind of came out that we would be able to save a good portion of the money, and everybody says, well, the water's free. The water technically is free, but it's the pumping and the treating and all those kinds of things. So when you look at the national average, I think the national average is around 336 liters, right? Per person? Yeah. Per year? Is that per year? Yeah. So when you look at that and say, okay, how much water do you use? And we were, I think at that time we were at about the 600 mark. Wow. So when you add that up through the year and how much water that you use and how that fits into the whole picture, it makes a good thing about conservation, because you really need to look at that and say, hey, can we save money? Can we become efficient? It's like using gas or electricity or whatever the case is. Everybody looks at conservation and how do you do that? So that was the starting point. It's been a long road, I could tell you, and people are saying, well, when will this end? Well, we're looking at this will end very, very shortly, and like I said, majority of the households now have meters, and it gives you a good idea what you're using, and you look at, there's other conservation things that you need to do, but that's the starting point. Okay, so saving money and saving water. Absolutely, and that's what and it's the treatment and everything else that you're going to save on, because everything costs money to do, and the way things escalate, and you have to remember that a utility has to be self-sufficient. So, we're looking at that. Like I said, there's other things that we can do and are doing. So it was a good starting point, like I said, and I think it took a long time to do, but when you do it, you need to do it properly. Right. Okay, so now that we do have the meters mostly installed, the City of Castlegar is looking at a proposed water and sewer rate change. Not necessarily an increase, but a change. Tell us about that rate change and what it will mean to the families and individuals living here. So what you come up with, and I could tell you staff's worked long and arduous at this to try and even get to this point. I mean, it's such a fine balance, because when you look over here, you need X number of dollars to operate the utility for the year. So you look at how are we going to do this when we got metered. So you have to try and find how many cubic meters are each individual going to use in the community, right? So trying to come up with that average of the balance. And we've had meters and we've done testing and we've found and we've looked at other formulas, and it makes it difficult, because you're trying to be fair at the same time, and water's a precious item, like we thought. That's why we're putting meters in. But when you look at the fine balance, then that's really what we're trying to do, is trying to balance everything out. So really, we don't want people to pay any more, but we want people to pay the same amount. So there doesn't have to be an increase there. But there's the base rate. Once you get the base rate, then you're gonna move up the ladder. It's gonna cost you more money. And really, the time that we look at it is the summer months, because everybody wants to water their lawn, and if you have a big lawn, it's more water. But it goes back to utilization of that water, and that's what we're really looking at. How much does your lawn really need? How much water do you really need to put on your garden? Those kinds of things. And to me, for us in the city of Castlegar, it's about the water ambassador that plays a huge role, you know, and it's understanding how your underground sprinkling works and what you need for water, what's your soil like, all those kinds of things. If we can give you that information, and it's about education. The more we can educate you about the more that I think you're going to be able to understand why the water rates are and the sewer rates are what they are.
So it doesn't necessarily mean an increase. It could be for some a decrease.
Absolutely, because how much water do you actually use, you know? When you look at a cubic meter of water, it's a lot of water. So, it's just, you know, like it's toilets, flushing toilets. How many times do you flush the toilet? Do you need a toilet that puts out 2 liters or whatever the case? Yeah. Does it do the job? Yeah. So those are the kinds of things. And I think if your water bill is the same, you're going to be happy. If it goes up a little bit, you may not be quite so happy. But that's the idea, is that it's a conservation role, and we're putting it in place. So like I said, and I need to give kudos to my staff that what the job they've done to get this. I mean, it's been a lot of work to get this thing, and huge balance, but it's also checking with other people that have meters and how this fits into the whole program.
So I know that at the beginning of November there is a public consultation process that's going to happen regarding the rate change. Is that just happening at the beginning of November, or can folks give feedback throughout the whole month?
I think they can give feedback through the whole month. I mean, it's on the website, and it's like we're doing budget and all those kinds of things. It's like I said, when you look at the utility, it has to be self-sufficient. So it's jumping in and say, can you do this or can't you do this? And I think people are aware, because now they have a good understanding how much water they're using. Because when they got their utility bill, it said, this is how much water you're using. And I can tell you for myself, I use a lot of water. So, but I do that because I like my lawn and I have a garden and all those kinds of things. But those are the kinds of things that the roles that play. I mean, you'll have that option. Here's the base rate, and you can move from there. And you'll have a really good idea. And we're always looking for ideas, and to people say, well, how can you do this? So can we do this better? And that's really, you know, even when you go to budgets, that's the kind of thing, because water and sewer play a huge role in budget, because that's one of the core things the city does.
Okay, let's move on now to another topic that came up at a recent council meeting, where a proposed zoning amendment bylaw came before the Castlegar City Council. And the purpose of that bylaw was to build a Health Canada approved marijuana production facility on the airport lands just outside town here. Now, can you tell us a bit, Mayor Chernoff, about that proposal, and then what was council's decision regarding?
Well, when we first looked at this, it's a proposal. It has to come to rezoning, because that area is not zoned for this type of business. So we look at rezoning, and the council's decision that it will go to rezoning, but then it'll have a hearing and do all those kinds of. It'll follow the process. The idea is a thing that you can set up I guess it's really a plant that's set up. And not to use that as a, but when
no pun intended.
No pun intended. No, exactly. But it's to operate and to the law that everybody says will change. Everybody's hoping that in July the federal government will change the rules. So this group is looking at a building that's available and has the ability to do what they want it to do. So
so the building is pre-existing. It's already there.
Yes.
They just look. Oh, okay.
Yes. It's the Maglio building that's there,
okay.
That no longer there. So that's what they're going to use, and have this thing. But really, it's really about jobs and what it does to the community. It's not, and I could tell you, it's when these things come out, the rules and regulations come out in July. Now, if it's still that big, it has a lot of regulations. It's not a thing. It's secure. It's all those things that are in place, and it's strictly for medicinal, and it works really well. And like I said, it creates jobs. It creates taxes for the community. And I think if the zoning goes through, and we have to wait through and go through all that process, but if the zoning goes through, it clearly illustrates that here's an option. and you can't. These opportunities, when they knock on your door, you really have to look at them seriously, because we've been marketing the airport lands for a long time to try and find something that fits in there and has the ability to grow. And as we get to that point, the public will have lots of input into it, and but it's the jobs and the economy that it creates, and we're trying to develop the economy in the community. So here's an opportunity, and if, like I said, if the zoning goes through, then we'll have that opportunity to have some more jobs, good jobs in the community, and that's really what we're looking for.
Okay, so you said the public will have a chance to have input. Does that mean before this bylaw will go through?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. They'll have a right there to go through the public hearing, and they'll understand what the project is, and get the zoning and go from there. The zoning is the key part of this thing, because that zoning presently, I'm not sure what it is, but anyway, so it's to get that zoning through and then go from there.
Okay. Did they mention in their presentation to City Council maybe how many jobs it would actually create?
No, they haven't, because they're kind of concerned about zoning, because zoning becomes, and I think it's been an issue across Canada where everybody look at zoning. Does this fit into the community, right? Any community that anybody wants to build one of these facilities. So that's the first step, and if they get the first thing, a lot of information will become forthcoming.
Welcome back. We are in studio with Castlegar Mayor Lawrence Chernoff. And before the break, we were talking about the proposed Health Canada marijuana production facility out by the airport. And this leads right into my next topic, which is dispensaries in Castlegar. So cannabis dispensaries have been a very hot topic across BC and the country as of late. With Castlegar possibly opening the door to a production facility, will this change the city's stance on dispensaries? And what is the city's stance, Mayor Chernoff?
Well, the city stance is pretty clear at this stage. Dispensaries do not exist and won't exist. Till the law changes, the city, we've had lots of inquiries, I could tell you that. We've had a ton of inquiries about people, and we've said strictly that the law's in place that this isn't possible in our community. So if the law changes, then we'll revisit that for sure. And we've told all the proponents that, you can come back to us after the laws change, and then we'll revisit that. But at this stage, and we've looked at it because it is illegal, and from our point of view, that if it's illegal, then we're going to adhere to the law. So it's pretty cut and dry to what we want to do, and like I said, the legality's there, but the door will be open when the law does change.
Okay, so it hinges on legalization.
Exactly, and and everybody said the feds will do this. We will come apart, and there is a big push. And it doesn't matter in BC or Quebec or wherever you are. It doesn't make any difference. But the push is on to get it through July, and then I guess at that time the floodgates will open, and there'll be that opportunity. So, was
this something that was brought up at the UBCM that happened last month?
Yeah, it's been brought up for a long time, and it's like, if you do it and you don't do it, and people, and I guess you have the opportunity if you live in a community, because it is a bylaw, that you can waive it and you can issue the business license. Vancouver is a prime example. I know they're on a different charter, but a license there is $30,000.
Wow.
So if you want to do that, locally, there is other communities that have done it, and but we're in a position that we feel that because of the legal aspect, till it's legalized, then we'll move in that direction. So everybody knows it's coming, so it's just a matter of the opportunity, and people want to come into Castlegar, and to do that once it's legalized, then it's open. It's like another business.
Okay, so now let's shift gears and talk about something that you've been working on for a while now, and that is the airport study. So you spearheaded a navigation study to increase safety and weather reliability of landings at the West Kootenay Regional Airport. What was the outcome of that study?
I can tell you the outcome was very positive from Jepson Aviation. we looked at this thing and we knew the study would really give us that information. We didn't know exactly how it would come up with, but it did come up with the information, and we're very pleased with the results. I mean, I know it cost a few bucks to do, but we feel the money was more than worth it. And so we're looking at this thing. This phase one is to get this study and now complete. We've met with NAV Canada and Transport Canada. They've previewed the whole thing and looked at it. It looks very positive at that end. And the next step is that we need to go to an airline to find out who will come on board for this information. And I mean, this from this study, and go from there.
What is the information? Is it technology based or equipment based?
It's all about the software. That's all it is. And it's based on board aircraft, and it's nothing on the ground. It's based on aircraft. It's sophisticated GPS, and it allows us to move the limits down. We calculate the limits now at 2,800 on the approach, and it'll go to 1,000 feet. Okay. So it's a huge difference to what we have today, but it allows. What we've also done in this study is they find what we've exit as well as an approach, so the aircraft can come in and the departure all at the same on an RNP, which is a registered navigational procedure. So we're at that stage now. The exit RNP isn't in place yet in Canada, but from Transport Canada's understanding, it'll come in January sometime in 2018. So we're now building. The next step is to go to the airlines and find who's going to come in and who wants to operate under these new rules and regulations. And but it's such a huge opportunity, and really what we looked at this study is what happens in the West Kootenays. And we know it's the weather. If we can do that in anything, like I said, we've worked at this a long time. We now have a solution to the problem. So to me, it's a win-win situation for everybody. It's just a matter that what needs to change is really, it's going to be an aircraft change. We're really looking at the aircraft which is best suitable for this is the Q400. So when we look at that, we know we fly the 300s, but it's advantage that time scale to say, hey, instead of 5 years down the road, can we accelerate that program to bring the Q400s on board? So
does that mean you are going to the airlines and making a pitch and saying who's willing to jump on board? Is that essentially what it's come down to? That's exactly what it is. Okay. It's making that pitch to them, and give them a good understanding. And it's about what's I guess compatible to their operations and how that works in the operations. But like I said, when we look at, and these are statistics we got, we move about 64% is where the number drops for the winter months, and that's a pretty substantial change because the other ones were running at 99, and traffic is way up. I mean, you look at how many flights are coming out of Castlegar on a regular basis, full flights. Mm-hmm. And those are the kinds of things, numbers that we're saying, hey, this is a viable part of this operation, and we want to improve the economy in the community. And like I said, in this day and age, because you got connectivity and you get the airport together, that's a great. And I could tell you, when I'm talking to people, it's you can own a home in the West Kootenays. There's no problem for you to own a home. So do you need to live in Vancouver? No. Do you need the Lower Mainland? No. You can live even in the Fraser Valley. You can live in Castlegar and do the job that you. And then if you have the ability to go back and forth to your head office, you're going to jump at it. We're in our Castlegar studio talking with Mayor Lawrence Chernoff, and right now I'm going to kick it over to the social media. So I posted that you were coming in and asked if anyone had some pressing questions, comments, or concerns they wanted brought forward. And there was one that came up about the possibility of having a bridge spanning from the college over to Castlegar. Is this on the city's radar? Is there a possibility that this could happen? Well, I think at this stage, I should say no, mainly because the cost, and I think when you look at it kind of where it fits in the priorities of the community, and that's kind of thing that we look at everything is how does it fit into the priorities, and when you're talking 16 to $17 million or more, it's how's the money used and how does it best fit into the community. So
I mean, I guess down the road it may be possible, but at this stage, I don't think it's a priority with us.
Is this something that the city has looked at before in the past? Has it come up for discussion before?
Well, I think, yeah, it has come up in the past, but there wasn't anything, there was some drawings on there, but not really good solid information about the cost. And I think when you base the cost, it's like when Trail put in their bridge, their skywalk or whatever, I'm not sure what it's called, but and you look at the figures, it's pretty dramatic. And really, when you look at the dollar figure, is that feasible to do? I mean, you may be able to get a group that come in and say, yeah, it's not going to cost the taxpayers any money. They can raise the money, do whatever they want. Sure, then we need to revisit that.
Okay. Okay, and another question we had in the same thread has to do with having a more extensive trail system built in Castlegar. Now, I know that the City of Castlegar held a waterfront plan visioning workshop this past summer in 2017. Did a greater trail or pathway system come up as part of the vision?
I think it is when you look at all the trails that we have today, and they're well maintained, and you look at them, and how do you build, and that's a huge attraction today, and you need to look at that because trails and bike paths and all these things are huge because that's the way people are kind of leaning towards that direction. So I mean, we have a lot, and it's connecting everything, and I think you need to look at it at a broader scope. It is how does the whole region come to play in the whole thing, and if you can get together and working with the regional districts and other communities to try and put a total package together, and then you just need to build on that, and it becomes again what's affordable, what's not affordable, and try and fit that into the greater plan. I mean, it's like the bicycle path. Yeah, we need bicycle. We want it to be safe. It's no difference when you build trail. They need to be safe. They need to be well maintained. So once you build a trail, it needs to maintain. So there's a cost to doing that, and people are involved in that. There's a lot of volunteer work that goes into those things. So it's a matter of how you look at the whole picture, and it's really to us looking at the big picture and what's available, what's not available, and how do we connect all the trails together. I mean, you got the Trans-Canada Trail, you got Mary Creek, you got all the trails, and it's just trying to put that whole package together.
Okay. Has the waterfront plan been put together, or is it still kind of in a planning stage?
It's still in a planning stage, and really it's trying to find that vision, the wants, and you know that some people have high objections to what's taking place, but it's still a vision. You know, and you need to go to the next step and get more input, and we're going to do more public consultation to see what the wants and needs are.
There was some great momentum that happened with Millennium.
Yes.
I think that's probably maybe where some of this is stemming from.
Yeah,
it's exciting and people want to see more.
Exactly, and you know, you look at what families are doing today, and then that's the thing that you want to put together. So I mean, we've done a great job on Millennium. It's really it's really the gem that we have in our community, and I would say more than in Western Canada to push it to that extent. But it's finding that goal that we need to get to, you know, and it's never easy because I know some people object, but it's getting the input from the public, digesting that out, and then coming up with a plan down the road.
Okay. All right, so now talking about plans and visions, let's move on to the Columbia Avenue redesign. So this has been a reoccurring topic at City Council meetings in the last year or two. What are the proposed plans for the Columbia Avenue redesign, and why are they deemed necessary?
Well, you need to look at what your infrastructure is, first of all. You look at the infrastructure. If the infrastructure needs to be, so that's the first step, and we need to do infrastructure upgrade. It doesn't matter how you look at the infrastructure. So as you bring it up from the ground up, you look at what you need to do and what's happening in today's world, right? The traffic, bike traffic, all this kind of stuff, pedestrians, how things are used. So we came up with a plan. We had lots of public input into it, and it's kind of what you look to the future. You're building today, and it really predicates what happens in the future. As we move through the roadway, we're getting those things. And like I said, we got the first section that we're going to do from 11th to 17th, which is a start, and then we're waiting for grants on the other portion of the highway, so in the south end. But it dresses the community up, but it becomes more functional to what we need to do.
So it is about infrastructure, but then it's also beautification?
Yeah, everything fits into this thing. It's about beautification. It's about how we use bike paths and how we put pedestrians. Then you build everything in there. How do you snow plow those? Are those effective to that? You put all these things into the formula and try and come up with what not only but what was most functional and over the long term, because as infrastructure gets old, you need to fix it. It doesn't matter what it is, and that's what our job is to get this infrastructure up to date and what we're doing to it and how we get to that point. So Columbia redevelopment is, I can't even remember the last time we paved that, but that's the idea. So you make it up and you look at what are sidewalks wider? Yeah, sidewalks need to be a little bit wider. Is this whatever? So we built everything into this plan, and the safety of it and the flow of traffic. As you get through this thing, people need to move, and everybody says, "Oh, it's so busy in Castlegar." I know, but you just need to step outside and see. Well, it really isn't that busy. It's busy 3 times a day, and people get impatient, right? And you see way more bikes, people riding their bikes to work and ride. And for me, the kids got to be safe out there. If you're allowing your children to use that, it's got to be safe. So how do we do that? And so when you do the plan, you incorporate everything, and safety is a high priority.
It's interesting about the traffic comments, because every time I feel frustrated driving up Columbia, I remind myself what it was like when I lived in Calgary, and then I don't feel so frustrated anymore.
No, people just, you got to be patient out there, and you got to be safe out there, and that's the big part of this thing. Kristina, it looks at, oh gee, I can't get downtown in 10 minutes, but all you need to do is step out the community. I mean, go to the big communities and see what happens. I mean, when you go to Vancouver, you're on the highway, and all of a sudden you're doing 120, all of a sudden you're doing 0.
Yeah.
And we're just saying, it's about patience, but we're trying to improve the flow so it flows nicely down the whole of Columbia. Remember that we're a longitudinal community, and you got to go through the whole thing to get to wherever you're going. But it's safety, and it's also what it looks like.
Very good. Okay. Well, thank you, Mayor Chernoff. Any last comments for us or for our viewers?
I would just like to say thank you for having me. It's very enjoyable to come down and for me to be able to tell you what's happening in the community.
Thank you. Appreciate it.